Hello students, welcome back to your economics class. Last class we ended at quality of population. We saw that the quality of population depends upon the literacy rate, the health of a person indicated by the life expectancy, and the skill formation acquired by the people of the country. These are the three most important factors that speak about the quality of population. The quality of population will ultimately decide the growth rate of the country. And the illiteracy and unhealthy population becomes a liability to the economy. Literate and healthy population becomes an asset. These were the things we spoke about in quality of education. So, education is an important determinant of the quality of education. Education not only produces good citizens, but it also directly contributes to the process of growth and development. If you remember the story of Sakal and Vikas, Sakal's education in the initial years of his life bore him lots of fruits in the latter years in terms of a good job and a salary. So education was an important input for the growth of Sakal. It opened new horizons for him. It provided new aspirations and developed values of life. Not only for Sakal, education also contributes towards the growth of the society. It enhances the national income, it helps in cultural richness, and it increases the efficiency of governance. So education enhances the literacy level and the skill level of a person. It also helps in enriching the culture of the society, and presence of educated person in society will indirectly benefit the illiterate people also, because it will development of the country will go higher, so automatically government will be able to provide more opportunities for the illiterate people to become literate and get jobs. Government has taken lots of steps to spread education amongst the people. Government strives to provide universal access to education. It also makes various plans to increase the retention of students. Special emphasis is given on girls' education. So there is a provision made for providing universal access, retention, and quality in elementary education, with special emphasis on girl education. There is also an establishment of pace setting of schools like Navodaya Vidyalaya in each district. Vocational streams also have been developed to equip large number of high school students with occupations related to knowledge and skill. The plan outlay on education has increased to rupees 151 crore in the first plan to rupees 37,066 crores in the 11th plan. The expenditure on education as a percentage of GDP has risen from 0.64% in 1950-51 to 3.98% in 2002-2003. So basically, due to the constant efforts of the government, literacy rate has grown from 18% in 1975 to more than 70% in 2011. You can do your own research and find out the latest rate. The literacy rate is higher amongst the male compared to the females. Kerala is a state where more than 90% of people are literate, and some people have very, very low literacy rates. Do you know how many boys and girls are there in your class, in your school? And can you calculate the total number of boys and girls across the three sections? Then you will know if there is a difference in the urban areas that we live in also. Human being is a positive asset and we are precious national resource of our country. We should be cherished, nourished and developed with tenderness and care, with dynamism. Each individual's growth presents a different range of problems and requirements. The catalytic action of education in this complex and dynamic growth process needs to be planned meticulously and executed with great sensitivity. So, education not only provides good citizens, but it also contributes to the growth and development of the country, of the human resource of the country. How? Number one, it helps in the growth of specialized skills. Number two, it increases the awareness and the scientific outlook of people. Number three, education facilitates research and innovation. It facilitates research and innovation for us. And number four, education also contributes towards cultural richness and efficiency of governance. Although, unfortunately, in India, education for all still continues only as a slogan of the politicians. Government has recently launched Sarva Shikshan Abhiyan to spread education to the remotest part of the country. Under this program, all children under 6 to 14 years of age are given free elementary education. Government is also providing midday meals in government schools so that the children of poor people can attend the schools. Midday meal has helped lots of children from poor family to attend school. So they will send them to school because education is free, plus they're getting food. Food is something they may not be able to provide at their home. They may be so poor. So they don't mind sending the child to school because it's not an added expenditure. Rather, by providing meals, they're getting one worry less. The 10th plan focused on increasing the enrollment in higher education from 6% to 9%. The strategy was to increase access, increase the quality, and adopt state-specific curriculum to motivate the enrollment in higher education. Vocational courses are also offered, and use of information technology is being maximized to attain the goal. The 10th plan also focuses on distant education, convergence of formal, non-formal, and IT education. If you look at the following table, you will see that over time, education in India has tended to expand. You can see the number of colleges, universities, students, and teachers has increased exponentially over the last few years. You can collect the statistic data of the current year because over here you can see it's only 1998 to 1999. You can collect recent one. The recent one that I have with me is the Economic Survey of 2014-15. In that, the institutes, the primary and the middle schools are 2.23 lakhs. Secondary schools are, primary and middle schools are 11.92 lakhs. Secondary schools are 2.12 lakhs. Colleges are 35,829 colleges. And universities that include the deemed universities are 665 universities. If you look at the number of students, the primary and middle school students are 19 lakh 85,000. Higher and higher secondary are 482 lakh. primary and middle are 1 crore 985 lakhs. High and higher secondary schools students are 482 lakhs, and universities have around 200 lakh students. That means we have a very good human capital formation happening. So we can see a bright future. But how do we make this better? Because we still have lots of rural students and children who are not getting enough education. So we should reach in the remotest of areas. And so government came with Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Okay. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is an Indian government program aimed at universalization of elementary education. That means making education universal in a time-bound manner as it was mandated by the 86th Amendment to the Constitution of India, making free and compulsory education to children of ages 6 to 14, making it a fundamental right. The program was pioneered by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a former Prime Minister. It's basically right to education, education for all, that is Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. As an intervention program, SSA has been operational since 2000-2001. Its roots go back to 1993-1994 when the district primary education program was launched with the aim of achieving the objective of universal primary education. Over several phases, it covered 272 districts in 18 states of the country. The expenditure on the program was shared by the central government and the state government. The central share, that is 85%, it was funded by a number of external agencies that included the World Bank, DFID, and UNICEF. By 2001, more than $1,500 million had been committed to the program and 50 million children covered in its ambit. In an impact assessment of phase 1, the authors concluded that the investment in DPEP was not a waste because it introduced a new approach to the primary school interventions in India. The Right to Education Act came into force on 1st April 2010. Some educationalists and policymakers believe that with the passing of this act, it has acquired the necessary legal force for its implementation. These are some of the best districts and worst districts in terms of education, basically how much pass percentage we have. Presently, the goal of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, that is 2015, were to open new schools in areas which do not have them and to expand the existing school infrastructure and maintenance, address inadequate teacher numbers, and provide training development for existing teachers, provide quality elementary education, including life skills, with special focus on the education of girls and children with special needs, as well as giving computer education. However, the levels of literacy still remain quite low. However, the level of literacy still remains quite low. This you can see from the statistics that you can see right now on the screen, that the literacy among male is 50% higher than the female. If you look at the male literacy rate, it's not 50% over here, but it is definitely higher than the female. Also, the percentage of literacy in urban areas is 50% more than the percentage of literacy in rural areas. Apart from this, there is wide variations in levels of literacy in different states, like Kerala, Chandigarh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Goa. All of their literacy rates differ. They show high literacy rates, while states like Rajasthan, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Arunachal Pradesh have very low literacy rates. As education directly contributes to the growth and development of the country, the government should take more efforts in making education universal. So with this, I end today's class. This is just one literacy rate chart of 2012 of India. There is another one in your, okay, the same one is there in your textbooks. And if you look at this graph, you can see that the literacy rates of population has increased since 1951. Can you tell me which year India has the highest literacy rates? 2004. Why literacy rate is high among the males of India? Because we have a very general rule where females do not study. It has been carried on for very long. And if you look at many villages, still women are not allowed to study or get independent. They will just be taught domestic chores and then and then they will get married. Why are women less educated than men? Because they don't have equal opportunities to study. They don't have an equal support system at home. I know so many places that even after a woman has studied, she is actually not allowed to work. Either it's pre-marriage or many times post-marriage. So many times after they get a child. And most of these places, it's mostly because of the support system missing. I feel if the husband or the father or the family actually pushes the women, then the women will definitely work. If a man is sitting at home, if a child of 18, 19 years old, 20, 25, whatever years old is at home, we give them the push that they require. Then why is the same push not given to a woman? How would you calculate the literacy rate in India? What is your projection about India's literacy rate in 2021? What do you think we should reach? Okay, so with this we end today's class. What I can leave you all with is, next we are going to be looking at health. So let's see if we are going to do how will health help in increasing the development? How will it make a people a better resource to the country? With this, I end today's class. Stay home, stay safe, take care, and keep learning. Thank you.